Well, all right, all right, all right. What an amazing, awesome day. And you guys know I'm energetic anyways, if you've been watching my podcast before, and I'm hyper but some days are just more energetic than others. And today happens to be one of those days. I got online with Jay and we'd been doing some stuff back and forth, but I realized that he lives in the same city that I live in. So, Jay, I don't know if you know this, that, and I talk about this several times in my podcast, but if we think about time zones in the continental U.S., Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific.
Right.
And I was just in New York, so I was in this yesterday. I flew back yesterday, and there's people everywhere. There's people everywhere. Well, the Eastern time zone, 350 million people in the United States, 65% of the United States population lives in the Eastern time zone. So that's why no matter from Florida all the way up to Maine, there's just nothing but people everywhere. Then the Central time zone has 15%, which is like Chicago and most all of Texas and lots of people, but only 15%, not a huge amount. The Western or Pacific time zone has 15%, which is your California, your Seattle, Portland, that's maybe part of Las Vegas, the people that live there. The Western time zone or the Mountain time zone, the Mountain time zone where Jay and I live is only 5% of the U.S. population. People don't live in Wyoming. I mean, somebody does because there's got people, right? They got buildings. No buildings over 3 stories, but they got buildings in Wyoming. They got buildings in Montana. A few people live there. Lots of reservations and stuff in New Mexico, and a few people live there. And then we have Colorado, which I think 8 million in the whole state. Right. So we're to have somebody that you can talk to and do a podcast with that actually lives where I drive by his house all the time it's got me excited. And so for those of you who are watching and being part of it, thank you again for being on, Jay. The reason Journey to Freedom, and I don't think I told you this yet, but the reason that Journey to Freedom exists is because I went to a trust leadership conference in Minnesota, and it was phenomenal. And then I look around the room, and there's 30 folks that look like us, that are people of color in the whole 500-person room. And I'm thinking about the information that we're getting. And I think like, why is my community not embarking and getting this same information that can transform and change their lives in a big way? So I fly back to Colorado, and I decide I'm going to start doing some coaching and doing some people around what it means, to understand our past and move into our future and what can we do. And what I'm looking for, where do I find? I said, I got to take this to my community. And then I was talking to God, and God said, well, I want you to do it with Black men. And I'm like, but I don't want to just talk to Black men. Black men are hard to talk to sometimes. I can't find enough Black men. He said, no, this is what I need you to do. And then so in 2024, I said, okay, I'm going to interview 100 Black men that are successful in their own right from all around the country and see what we can get going. And it has been phenomenal. We're at about 200 something episodes now. The people that I've had on have just been incredible. I used to say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how anybody looks. I don't need to see other people that look like me doing the thing at all. I got this. I got to college. I went to Cherry Creek High School, so I graduated here in Colorado, grew up here. I don't need to see it. But then I go to this event, Jay, and I'm counting how many people are in the room. So that tells me I care. Oh, yeah. And I ask other people who go to things and they count too. So we care. But I can't wait to have this conversation with you. Journey to Freedom. I took a group of men to Alabama that were from the Denver, Colorado metro area, 18 men. I think 2 of them were out of state that we went to do the civil rights tour. And you're from Louisiana and learned all about, some of the South. And oh my gosh, it's a different world. And you know that now because you came from there and you're here. Oh my gosh, but to be able to talk to somebody. So thank you, Jay, for being on. I've asked Jay to tell his story like I do all the other folks that come on. And we get to know him, and then we're going to chop it up with some really cool questions after that. So thank you for being on. You're up.
Dr. B, thank you. It is an honor to be here with you, and I was really excited to find out that, we're in the same area code. So that was really exciting, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you in person. And I'm telling you, those stats that you dropped about the population in the different time zones, I didn't really know it in that way, but I knew it in the sense that every time I get on the phone with somebody, they're not in the mountain time zone. So I 100% get it. But thank you so much for having me on your show. And yeah, I'm excited to tell a little bit about myself. I am, born and raised primarily in the South. Was born in Texas, in El Paso. My dad was in the Army, and then lived in Texas, Louisiana, did a little time out on the East Coast, and then back to Louisiana and Texas. So when people ask me where I'm from, I'm a Southern kid, and my roots are deep in that Louisiana and Texas area. I went to LSU. So I love my college sports, specifically my college football. I have worked primarily in corporate spaces, and you talk about going to events where you don't see a lot of faces that look like ours. The latter part of my corporate career, I worked in aviation, and more specifically business aviation, and that is 100% a space where you don't see a lot of people that look like us. I went to an event in Washington D.C. that was, it was a conference, and I walked in there. There's probably 150 people in this room, and it took me a few minutes to find someone else who, a person of color, another Black man. There was only two women of any color in the room, so it was definitely a homogenous space. Um, I ended my career in corporate America with the title of Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I I'll tell you, I've spent my entire career in finance and accounting, and I right after George Floyd, the company that I was working for made the choice that they were going to start a DE&I program, and I became the VP of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And then, as you know, recently, all of those things have been changing and being walked back. And I left there, and I've started my own business. I'm a fractional CFO, so I had the opportunity to work with small business owners and give them some of the same strategies and techniques that big businesses use, but small businesses typically can't afford. I have my own podcast that is called Just Human. And, in that space, I spend a lot of time talking about leadership and personal growth and culture. And I'm working on a book of the same title called Just Human. And the subtitle is Rediscovering Our Shared Humanity. But I'll tell you, I struggle sometimes with a little bit of imposter syndrome because, most accountants are not writing books. So that's a little bit about myself, but I'm really, really pleased and excited to have this conversation with you today.
Oh, cool. Well, oh my gosh, so much to unpack and so much to, when you think about, your typical accountant, your typical finance. The last podcast I did was a tax strategist, right? and you think of the humanness of, just relationships and how they connect and interact, and you think them more on like the engineer side.
Right.
One of the things that I said is, I got my master's in educational technology. And when I was started teaching at the university, everybody thought I was like into computer science. well, I can't program anything, nor would I want to. Or, mine was all on the side of application, like, let me show you how to use this to your best advantage. That's what I'm good at because I'm good at relationships.
Yes.
And, now that I'm doing AI stuff and I do AI summits, I was on a podcast, well, somebody's podcast, I think last 2 weeks ago, and they're like, well, you're not an AI expert. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean that I'm supposed to like understand how to create generative AI, or does that mean I'm supposed to teach people how to use it practically in their life? And so I love the fact that, you said like the human side of accounting and what you did, and then you get switched over to the VP of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then you go, wait a minute, what are they putting me into that is going to be this political? And you probably there's no way of knowing at that time
Right.
that it was going to end up the way it is right now. But to just, some of the battles and the conversations that you have to have, I can imagine you will have to be a super special person to cross those two paths and still talk about some of the things. So what I would like to do is, as my first official question, I guess, to you, which is one that I ask most of my guests anyways, but at the same time, yours is probably going to be a little bit different, because when we talk about identity and who we are, and you being, in the finance side of it and that kind of stuff, and probably very organized, and everything's in the right place. And how did that grow? I mean, what is it that you believed about what you could do, what you couldn't do, and in the fights you might have had going into doing some of this stuff to get to the positions that you were at? Did your identity have to switch? Yeah, talk to me about identity. I know that was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great question. And, the whole topic of identity, and especially for Black men, can be very challenging because it can become very easy for us to believe the narratives that we see on TV and that other people place on us. And it's going to a major university where, again, at the time that I was going, there wasn't a ton of students that looked like me. You're walking in the classrooms for accounting and for finance and all of these other business classes. And you start to become very used to that exercise of ignoring all of the eyes on you, and you know and trying to fight the fact that there's people that are questioning that, well, why is this person here? And it's easy to start to believe that yourself in the spaces that you go into. And so then you fast forward to corporate America, and I'm having the opportunity to work for publicly traded companies of different sizes, and most teams that I was on, most meetings that I was in, most of the people that I reported to, they didn't look like me. And so with my identity, I had to constantly battle those inner voices of, yeah, you don't belong here. You don't belong in this space. And it probably took me being 20 plus years into my career to finally realize that, you know what? I do belong in these spaces. I am an excellent developer of people, an excellent evaluator of talent, a great mentor. I can, let alone the technical side, I can do analysis and work my spreadsheets with the best of them. But once I realized that I had these abilities to build teams and develop talent, and be in those spaces, once I stopped telling myself that I didn't belong in those spaces and that I actually did belong, my identity changed because my self-talk got so much better. And that's the narrative that so many of us that I see that we struggle with is the stories that we tell ourselves.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, and we do, and I talk about a lot when the last talk I did was about these three voices that we hear all the time. One is that voice that we speak in our head all the time, that I don't know if we can always trust, because we're the ones that have lived our whole lives, know every lie we've told, know every story we've done, know all the fears that we have, and then we try to think that we can come out. That second voice, though, is that voice that others tell us who we are.
Right.
And that becomes our identity. And sometimes it's our parents that don't know, they're just trying their best. Sometimes it's the outside. For me, it was going into special ed classes and telling me that I wasn't enough and telling me that I couldn't do stuff. And we listen to that. And that sometimes is the biggest voice that we listen to, is what other
Yes.
people think about us.
Yes.
And
100%.
then that third voice that, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit, is the voice of the communities that we go into that believe in us, the coaches and the teachers and the mentors that lift us up and tell us that we're more than what everybody else is telling us we are. And then they begin to shape us and mold us. And somehow we get older and we get rid of some of those relationships. For me in athletics, it was, some of the coaches I had, but then I go out and then I'm starting to listening to society again, right? And I don't communicate and get with people that I know are going to take me to the next level, or I get comfortable. New relationships, new, folks that are at that next level that I want to get to. As you're doing this, and you talked about some of the things that we listen to, how have you been able to make sure all three of those voices, and the two beginning one and the last one, are the ones that are speaking to you the most?
Yeah, it's some amazing that you bring that up, because as I think about these different voices that we have, and I think about when I was coming up, my parents had a plan for me, and at times it didn't always feel like I had a say so on what that plan was going to be. You're going to go to school, get good grades, graduate, go to college, get good grades, graduate, and rinse and repeat. And Brian, one of the things that I like to talk about, I use Legos as an analogy a lot when I do my talks, and because most people can relate to Legos, and
Mhm.
quite frankly, I've purchased a lot of Legos for my son over the year. My son's 25, and we joke about the number of Legos that I've purchased for him. But if you think about Legos, you open a thing of Legos, and there's an instruction book that comes with it that tells you exactly how to build what is on the picture on the front of that box. And sometimes the voices that we hear are like that instruction manual that are telling us, this is what your life needs to look like. Go put it together. Go make that happen. And for myself, and I think for many of us, we follow that path that other people have created for us. And we might have an inner dialogue that is doubtful of our ability to do that, or maybe even doubtful of our desire to follow that particular path. But then those are the voices that we've had. Now, then, if you're fortunate, and I was very fortunate, I've had some great mentors over in my life and in my career. You get some folks who begin to speak into your life and give you the vision that you could do other things. And so, for me, I just turned 60 years old, and I never would have thought that at the age of 60 that I'm running my own business. I figured that I would be retiring from big corporate at the appropriate time, but now I'm having the time of my life building my own business and supporting other small business owners based on the fact that I had other people speaking into my life. And I
Mhm.
sort of equate that to taking the instruction manual to those Legos and throwing it away. And now you just got a pile and you get to build whatever you want. You
Mhm.
make of your life what you want from the pieces that you've got in front of you.
Oh gosh, I love that. Such a good way of saying that. We have boxes of Legos for my grandkids. Now, you're gonna love this, right? What month were you born?
I was born in November.
November. So you're gonna turn 61 in November. That's next November. Or
Yeah, I
yeah, because
literally
you just turned
just
60.
turned 60 a week ago.
Gotcha. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate it.
I turned 60 in March.
Okay.
So so I'm a few months older than you, not much. But to think of, like, we have this big bag of Legos for our grandkids, and it is just dive in. But now the grandkids are asking for these kits, right? The
Yep.
ones that are telling you meticulously where you got to put this piece. And then they get frustrated depending on their age, and then they throw it down. But the analogy of, wait a minute, here are all the pieces, you get to make the choices.
Yes.
The world can't decide for you to make whatever this beautiful picture is. I think is just so, oh man, so incredibly amazing. So, oh, this is kind of cool because you grew up the exact same time I did, not just a little bit the exact time, but the exact time. You
Exact.
probably, yeah, you graduated in 83 or 84?
83.
83, yeah. So literally the exact same time, the exact same music, the exact same everything. So when you started your thing in corporate America, and all the things that we were taught about how we had to act and how we had to be better and all those things that were put in, when you started, did you have this belief in you that you would end up someday being the VP, or did you think, hey, wait a minute, this path may be too much for me, or it wasn't even a thought? I just got to go to work and support my family. Well,
Yeah, honestly, at that time, I was so focused on trying to do the best possible job that I could do at that time. I think that early on in my career, I did not have the confidence in myself to think about myself being in those executive spaces. I was just focused on, going from financial analyst 1 to financial analyst 2 to 3. I wasn't thinking about one day becoming a manager and then a team leader and a director and then senior. I wasn't thinking about those things until later, and I started to have those people that were speaking into my life and helping me to realize. I'll tell you, I was thinking about a great mentor that I had. This was a woman that I worked for at another company, and I was on her team, and I was really happy with the work that I was doing. I was good at it. It was a fun place to work. She was a great boss. And one day she called me in her office, which wasn't unusual. So I didn't stress out over it. But she called me in and she said, Jay, hey, close the door. So then I started to get a little bit anxious at that point in time. So I closed the door and she said, hey, you're going to get a phone call today from a recruiter. I'm going to need you to take that phone call. And
oh my,
I'm
oh,
like, wait, what? Are you are you kicking me out? Am I getting
you get rid of
fired?
me? Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, no, I just recognize the fact that your talents, your abilities, your potential are greater than I can help you achieve by you staying here. But this recruiter is going to call you about an opportunity. And I need you to think about that job, not for what it is today, but for what it can be down the road. And that put me on the path for that company where I had the opportunity to go from that financial analyst to vice president of accounting, vice president of finance, vice president of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that happened because someone saw the potential in me, and they kicked me out the nest, and basically pushed me out of a place where I was comfortable and pushed me into a place where I was uncomfortable, because we all know, we've heard that expression, no one grows in a place where you're comfortable.
It just kind of gave me chills that there was somebody in your life that was willing to just say, hey, I love being with you. I love being around you, but there's more.
Yes.
And then to facilitate that happening, because for her to know the recruiter was going to call you, she had to have conversations with.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
Yeah. It was
And how
amazing.
many of us don't, huh?
It was amazing. And it was a pivot point in my career that I don't know would have happened without that individual.
And it makes me think, like, how many folks that we interact with do not get that opportunity for somebody to do that for them. Or in this day and age, some of the kids who expect somebody to do that for them and haven't even done the work to earn it yet, but
Exactly.
expect you to call on their behalf.
Exactly.
But then how much of that are we doing when we've had that opportunity for others? Like, I'm trying to think, when's the last time it's been a while since I've been in a corporate space, but where I have found somebody who has potential, made an appointment or made a connection for that person to be able, so that they could succeed and have not that they have to take whatever I'm giving them, but they have the opportunity and choice. Because I think that's what we look for most of the time is
Yeah.
the choice. You had the choice to decide to stay or leave, right?
Yeah, I did. I did. I could have totally stayed there, but I looked at it this way, that this person saw enough in me
Mhm.
to, you know, sort of nudge me in that direction. I needed to take a look at it. And then once I got a glimpse of it, then yeah, I'm competitive. I played
Mhm.
sports, I want to win. And so that's what I did. And I took that opportunity. And I 100% agree with you that when we see that in other people, it is almost, I feel like it's our duty to pay that forward. And if I may, I had the opportunity. I have a person who she's actually still a part of my team now. She works
Mhm.
with me in my company today. But years ago, during the pandemic, when I was still working for that other company, and I needed to fill a manager position. And this person had never been a manager, but I saw in her the ability to do that. And I had had a little gathering over at my home. It was towards the tail end of the pandemic, and I had a few people from my team over there. And I pulled her aside and I said, "Look, Vanessa, I have this opportunity and I really want you. I think that you can do this. I know that you can do it. I just don't know that you think that you can do it.
Mhm.
And I would like for you to take on this responsibility." And initially she pushed back. "I don't want to lead people. I don't think that I can do that." And I said, "Look, I want you to give me a year. You commit to you do this role for a year. If you hate it, then I'll make sure that you have a spot to go back to, if you want to go back to just being an individual contributor." But she did it, and she really excelled, and she got to a place where she was leading a team of 10 people. And she when I had the opportunity to bring on my first person on my team, she was one of the first people that I called, but because I know her abilities. But I think that that's the type of thing that we have to continue to really lift others up and help mentor them.
Man. Yeah, and I think as I'm staying on these lines here and thinking about the DEI work that you've done, and just thinking about trauma, for me or for you when we're kids and coming out of it, my dissertation was on, expectation versus potential, or experience versus potential. I didn't say experience versus potential, hiring Black administrators in schools, because you think about the opportunities of folks that are getting pigeonholed, or, folks that, hey, you're good at this, so I'm just going to leave you here because you're taking care of something that I need, but I'm not going to give you that opportunity to excel. But then we also say, there's systems that are being built that are getting exactly what they were meant to get. And then you think about the folks that you've worked with and how to help them. What are some of the things that you've been able either to create through experience or create through understanding to help people further their potential that may not have those experiences because they weren't given the opportunity to get those experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one is, I feel that as leaders, if we have the opportunity to lead a team, or even it can be a community group, it can be a nonprofit, whatever the role that you're in, that you have the opportunity to lead, I think that as leaders, we have to come from a place of utmost humility and recognize that just because I may be the leader of this team, this work group, this division, doesn't mean that I have to have all of the answers. And so I have to set my ego aside and also surround myself with people and make it safe for them to be able to speak up and disagree with me at times. As a team, we can't excel if I'm wrong and no one is willing to speak up and tell me that I'm wrong. If I'm not creating a space where people can respectfully disagree with me, then we don't have a good team. And so, that's one of the things that I believe that we really have to do, is create these spaces where the safety is there for us to be able to disagree sometimes in a respectful way. I also think that there are a few other things that really need to be present. I think that we have to have a strong connection to who we are as individuals. I need to know who I am as a person, as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a coworker. And through that connection with myself, be willing to show up every single day and know that, yeah, I might not be right every day, but I'm going to give you my best every single day. The second part of it is being willing to connect with other people. And so when we have a team, being willing to be vulnerable with my teammates and be open, be candid, share information. If we're working on a project and I'm holding all the information because I'm trying to make myself look good, then I'm only committed to Jay. I'm not committed to the team. I think about it like the athletes who are more focused on the name on the back of their jersey than they are on the one on the front. And then I think that the third piece is, we all need to know what our shared purpose is. If you and I are working on something together, then if we know what that mission is, what we're trying to do and accomplish together, then we can go get that done. I think that all three of those elements have to be there, and they have to happen in that order. It's got to be connection to self, connection to other people, and then connection to a shared purpose. You get those things together and we can make almost anything happen.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that, because it's one of the things I've been dealing with, or helping people through understanding. And I'll say these words and then let you, because you're on the financial side as well, is I truly believe that a person's network equals their net worth.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people are not reaching out to those connections that you were just talking about in order to better themselves. Like, they would rather, I can't have a connection with a television show. I mean,
Right.
I can enjoy it and I can be entertained by it, but until I start increasing that network of those connections that I have, and the way I'm helping people now is just 15-minute virtual conversations. Do 5 a week. You will be amazed at how your life changes when you get the right people, have the conversations. We're doing it through podcasts. We're doing it through, I got 250 of these Journey to Freedom podcasts. My network has like blown up in my perspective and what I do, but it also equals my net worth. And I don't think people have figured out how to make that connection. Maybe you can help me with your experience and your connection of how important it is not to wait for somebody. Like the mentor's not going to knock on your door and say, hey, I want to mentor you today and I want to help you get to where you want to go, right? That isn't the everyday occurrence.
Yeah.
But for us to go out and seek, I mean, how many people have you turned down that have said, hey, I really, really need your help. Can you meet with me 15 minutes, a week or a month in order for me to be better? Like, are
Yeah.
you turning those people down?
It is not happening very often, if at all. And I will tell you that, I think that what you said is 100% true, but you're right. We can't sit back and wait. Yeah, occasionally that might happen where someone's going to cross your path and they're going to see something, but the likelihood of the timing of you being ready and that person being ready at the exact same point in time, that's rare. And I truly believe that if we want to accomplish things, we want to grow our network, we want to learn some new things, you got to go out and ask. You have to, and not be afraid to ask. Now, I will tell you that this is not something that I was good at early on in my career. And I think that's the difference, that as we get to a certain point in time in our age on this journey, that we gain wisdom if we're doing things the right way. And I recognize that, you know what? I am not afraid to shoot my shot. If I have the
Mhm.
opportunity to ask someone a question, hey, can I get 15 minutes of your time? Um, hey, let's connect for dinner. Let's connect for lunch. I'm asking, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Someone tells me no, that they don't want to do it. Well, then I move on to the next person. It's not going to destroy my life because that person said no. And more times than not, they're going to say yes. But, there was you mentioned TV shows. There was a TV show that I was watching, my wife and I were watching not too long ago. And there was a character in there that had this silly expression, but it was really insightful. Don't ask, don't get. And basically all
Mm.
she's saying is that if you don't ask, you're never going to get it. And so the other side of that is true, is that, more often than not, if you ask the question, and especially you ask the right person, you're going to have the opportunity to receive.
Yeah, I would love to challenge people to make those, especially with technology today. I would say if you can do 5, new associations, new network people every week for 15 minutes, one a day, 5 days a week, or 5 in one day, however you do it, and go 90 days and tell me your life isn't significantly different in what you have the ability to achieve. Obviously based on the people you pick. I don't want
Right.
you to go pick people that are at the same level you are or below the
Right.
level you are, because that's easy. I can go find some. I could walk outside right now and go to the train station and find somebody that's sitting on the stool that will talk to me for hours because he
Right.
hasn't talked to anybody, right?
Right.
But if you strategically pick people, maybe the best of the best is something you want to do, or the top 10 people, that you just know in your sphere of influence, and reach out and give them a call.
Yeah.
I want to switch directions real quick, and then we can come back if you want to. Super important to me in these conversations is you alluded to that you are a dad,
Yes.
and some of the stereotypes or the belief system in our community with dads is that we don't do enough, or that we're not there enough, or that we haven't. And I absolutely don't see that in you. But sometimes I believe we all know how important it is for a child to have a dad in the family.
Yes.
No matter what. I think it's important. You got to do what you got to do to get there. But I don't think we talk enough about what it means to be a dad and how it changes our lives as we progress through the process of from the time they're born till their time, they're 25 and you're still
Right.
talking about Legos. So talk
Right.
to me about what it's meant to be a dad over these years.
Man, I tell you, let me start with this. I'm fortunate enough to still have my dad. My dad turns 82 in January, and we didn't always have the greatest of relationships. My dad was strict. He ran
Mhm.
a tight ship, but my dad was excellent provider. We never wanted for anything, and the thing that my father modeled for me most was hard work. My dad knew how to work hard. And so that's what was modeled for me. And that's what I focused on, especially early in my career. So then, April of 2000, when my son is born, and now, I'm holding this little guy in my hands, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
Unlike the Lego box, there's no instruction manual that comes with it, and so,
Yeah, yeah.
I start modeling what I knew how to do, and that was work hard, and so I'm gonna make sure that, we've got the house, the stuff, all the bills are paid, he's not wanting for anything, all the Legos that he wants, and over the years, as he got a little bit older, I realized that yeah, those things have their place and there's their level of importance, but he actually needed my time and to be
Mhm.
with me and to do things with me. And so, I started doing things that I didn't know anything about. Man, I coached soccer for 10 years. I didn't play soccer. I didn't know anything about soccer, but I bought books, I bought videos, I went to classes so that I could coach my son and his friends in soccer. And I did that for 10 years. And, now I fast forward to today and, my son, he lives in Louisiana. He lives down there close to his mom, my ex wife. And we went through a very, very short period of time where we were a little bit estranged. I was still reaching out to him, letting him know I was there for him, but he was going through some stuff, and then one day I get a phone call from my at that point in time he's 21, and dad, I want to, can I come back out to Colorado and spend some time with you? Well, of course, son, let's go. Here's a plane ticket, come on.
Yeah.
And so now the conversations that I'm able to have with my son, yeah, we still joke about Legos and we talk about things, but now we're talking about things of what it means to be a man, and especially what it means for him to be a young black man. Having, unfortunately, we had to have a conversation about a traffic stop that he went through and an interaction that he had with a police officer. But the fact that he felt like he could call his dad
Mhm.
and we could have that conversation was it meant the world. And so being a father, when I think about all the titles that I've ever held in my life, that is one. It's, I value that one, as father. I'm a son. I'm a brother. I'm a husband. I'm a friend. Those are important titles for me, more so than any vice president title than that I've ever had. Those titles right there mean more to me than any of the others.
This question, I don't know how many people, I don't think I've ever asked this question, but I'm super curious with you because I feel and I hear your heart. And we all make mistakes, and we, things that we do, and how we love, our, whether it's our wives or the significant others in our life. Can you walk me through maybe one or two of the mistakes that you think, if you had to do it over again, this is how you would love differently, that could help some of our young Black men or other Black men? And there was because I just see we have these egos that we
Yeah.
talked about a little bit, and
Yeah.
I know for me, there's a few things that I would have done differently now that I'm 60 years old and wise,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
than I was when I was 22.
No doubt. I think that, as I was thinking about the conversation that you and I were going to have today, and one of your questions talked about armor, and the armor that we, especially as Black men, wear constantly. We go out in the world, and unfortunately, more often than not, and especially here where we live, because there's not that many of us, but we put on our armor and we go outside. I live in Douglas County, one of the probably the most affluent county
Mhm.
in Colorado, and I think it's in top 10 in the United States. And I walk around my neighborhood where I own a house. I'm on the HOA, and I'm still thinking about, okay, if I go for a walk and the sun goes down, is somebody gonna call the police on me because they think that I don't belong, that type of thing. And so we get used to wearing that armor and thinking about some of these things as we go out into the world, and how that relates to relationships and mistakes that I've made is that sometimes you forget to take that armor off. You come
Yeah.
home, you come home and you're in your safe space, you're with your loved ones, and you still got your armor on, and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
still ready to fight or flee. And so I think that that can sometimes manifest itself into being overly aggressive in how we speak, um, being a little bit more terse than I want it to be, maybe not being as present as I want it to be, and not being willing to be vulnerable and admit mistakes. And especially when I think about my son, when I think about my wife, when I think about my friends, um, I want to be in a space where I can take that armor off and hang it up
Mhm.
and be
Mhm.
vulnerable, and they can know that, hey, if I'm scared, I'm gonna tell you that I'm scared. If I'm worried, I want to be able to tell you that I'm worried. And this as you're building a business. Um, I feel like I'm scared all the time, but being able to be in that place where I don't feel like I have to have it all together 100% of the time. That's one of the mistakes that I made early on, and that if I could learn that earlier, and for anyone who is in a celebrating a much smaller birthday than I am, I would just say, look, recognize that you don't have to have it all together, and allow yourself to be vulnerable. And here's another one, and I'll shut up after this. Be willing to ask for help when you need it. You know, you got to be willing to ask for help when you need it.
Amen. Oh, I love that one. And I was just thinking, one of the biggest mistakes that we have this thing about therapy, or we have this thing, and so I think we think, well, if I just go to the barbershop, well, you're not going to the barbershop anytime soon, but when we go to the barbershop, that we think through, this is not my therapy. That's where we just talk. But somebody who can actually, like you said, walk me through, and the stigma of it is, do I want my relationship to be great,
Right.
or do I want to act like I got everything together?
Yeah.
when I don't. Like you said, you don't know everything, and then you're willing to ask for help. And it might just be, I'm not saying you have to officially go to a therapist that's in your directory in your health insurance. But if it is, I would say take advantage of it. But if it's just an older gentleman like ourselves, but have that conversation. Don't ask me about what Mahone's doing,
Right.
because
Right.
neither one of us are going to meet Mahone or spend any time with them anytime in the near future. Ask me about, what does it mean to love my wife? What does it mean to be a dad? What does it mean to not know what's next and still be able to be strong and hang out, or be able to say, I don't know what's next,
Right.
but I want to do it together, right?
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough that I have my best friend, who's now my brother-in-law, but we've been best friends. We both moved to Colorado at the exact same time. We met on a basketball court randomly in Boulder, and we became friends almost immediately, and we have been homies ever since. But we have something in our relationship. We call it, we're in the vault. And there is nothing that I can't talk about with him, whether it is money related, whether it is, hey man, I took a L today with the wife. I messed up. I messed up at work. I did that. Whatever it is something where we're in the vault. And the other aspect that we have is that when we go in the vault, I'm not always asking you for your opinion, and I'm not always asking you to fix it. Sometimes I just want you to listen. But every once in a while, I do want to hear what you have to say, and I do want to hear your perspective. And when we go in that vault, we know that it's staying there between the two of us. And I believe that every person needs that person in their life, because sometimes you just got to get some stuff off your chest, get some stuff off your heart. And if you don't have someone that you can do that with, it's going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come out, but it might come out in a way that is very unhealthy.
Thank you for that. Thank you for at least sharing that we need that person, and it's somebody that you need to find in your life in order to have better relationships with everybody else. That is just so fantastic. I asked you a lot of really cool questions that I wanted to know the answers. So they were cool questions because I was asking them, and it was
Of
me who wanted
course.
to know it. But I would love to know from you, is there anything we didn't talk about that you want to make sure that we spend time on? And then let us know how to get a hold of you and all that kind of stuff in our last 10 minutes or so that we have together.
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to thank you again. And this conversation has been it's been amazing, just having the opportunity to chop it up. I feel like even though you and I just met, I feel like we've known each other for a long time, and I'm looking forward to continuing to develop that relationship, especially since we have the opportunity to be in the same area code. I did want to say your 5 pillars are amazing. I love them. And I mean, I know that for your regular listeners, they know the identity, trust, faith, finance, and health. I thought that those were so strong. I think that they cover the internal aspect with identity and faith. They cover the relational aspect, which is trust. You can't have a strong relationship with no trust. And then you get into the practical aspect with finance and with health. I tell you, if I had to add a 5.1 to that,
Mhm.
I think that the biggest one that I would add would be legacy. And it's sort of it
Yeah.
goes back to what you and I were talking about. If you and I take those 5 pillars,
Mhm.
we keep it all to ourselves, and we don't find a way to share that in other people, teach that to other people, spread that news to other people, that's no legacy. I'm working on teaching my son about these 5 pillars. that's part of my legacy. So I I am definitely, I love your 5 pillars. The first thing that I thought about was how those translate into the legacy that I leave as a person. So um, I wanted to add that, and if anybody wants to connect with me, they can reach out on my website jboykin.com, and I'm out there on all of the socials, but you can find all of my connections on my website.
Wow. Well, Jay, we are not close to being done.
No.
I can't wait till we have another podcast where we just get to talk about some of this stuff, and whether it's part of the community or just a fireside chat, or maybe we just get together sometime out somewhere in park or something, and we sit across a fire, film some of it, and just let people be part of the conversation. Oh, when I think about legacy at the ages that you and I are at now, it just becomes even more important. What is it that my children and my grandchildren and then the people that are around me will be able to believe about me and the things that I tried to do in life? And I agree, that is the sixth pillar. It's did we trust well enough? Did we trust the right people?
Yeah.
Did we learn how to trust when our society told us not to?
Yes.
Did we ask the questions about our money that allowed it to grow, or did we pretend that everything was going okay all the time and we dug ourselves into a hole?
Yes.
Right? What did we have faith in our God that said that, hey, I'm going to give this as an example to my children of what it means to love in a way that is unconditional. In my identity, did I continue to grow that identity in a way that allowed others to participate in it? Or did I have a shut off identity that I was always worried that I wasn't enough, when I knew the God who made me knew me by my name and was able to move me forward? And so, oh my gosh. And then health. I mean, you look healthy. I don't look as healthy, but my dad's in Parker and he's 86, and we ran a track meet together
Oh,
in
wow.
July.
That's amazing.
It's just,
That's amazing.
thinking about, hey, yeah, I mean, we're just, the legacies they're showing us of what we need to do to take care of ourselves in order to be able to have that longevity so that we can leave a legacy,
Yeah.
in the things that we do. So, man, thank you for being on. Thank you for being part of it. For those of you who have never seen this show before, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe and notifications or whatever it is that you're on there. And I promise you, if you go back and listen to some more of these episodes, you will find several people that you identify with.
Absolutely.
I would even say it even more. There's contact information on all my guests underneath all of our shows. And, there are people that if you do resonate with, I want you to take it to that next level. I want you to take it to that level that I need to set up. If you don't live in the same state, a virtual coffee. If you have ability to go have a real coffee, go have a real coffee. But go in there with the spirit of, what can I do for you to serve you? And then think about, what is something that you would need that they may be able to help you with? And it might be in the 15 minutes. It might be as you develop a relationship after. But until you actually reach out, because I don't think the guys on the show are going to figure out who watched my show and then call you up and say, how can I help you? But if you make those connections, I promise you, you will have a better life for it.
That's
Jay, do you have
wonderful.
one more last thought you want to give before we're done?
Man, I strongly reiterate what you just said. Don't sit back. Don't make the mistake that I've made in the past. But yeah, reach out. Try to make some connections. And in this day and age of social media, between LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X, whatever your platform of choice is, don't hesitate to reach out, and don't be discouraged if you get some no's, because those no's are just putting you that much closer to the next yes. So find those people that can help speak into your life and can help you develop into the person that you want to be. So, I thank you so much for having me on the show, and I'm going to hold you. I really want to get together face to face because I had an idea pop into my head that I want to talk to you about.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, we'll connect and make sure that happens. And oh man, can't wait. So for those, you said some don'ts. I want you not to forget that, or don't forget that you are God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. And you, my friend, will look forward to seeing you on the next one. Have an amazing, awesome, just incredible day.